This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hello and welcome back to Movie Review of the Day here on Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. I am Miranda and will be your host for today. And I actually get the fantastic honor of kicking off a new themed week for us. And that is Scream Week. So all week long, different ones of us will be diving into Scream franchise. And I get to start us off with the one that actually began it all. And I'm just going to say this right up front. This is actually one of my favorite horror movies ever. Not just in the slasher genre, not just in the 90s horror, I mean ever. Along with that though, full transparency before we go any further, I love Stu. And we will get there. But before I get into why I love this movie, I do want to acknowledge something that I think is very important. I am very aware that Scream was influenced by real life events, specifically the Gainesville murders, which were tragic and horrific. And there's nothing entertaining or fictional about that kind of violence, and it is important that I say that out loud. What Scream does, and what I want to focus on here, is take that darkness and transform it into something self-aware. It's a horror film that examines fear, media, and the genre itself without glorifying real-world harm. I think holding space for both of those truths very much matters. So let's get into the film itself. Scream came out in 1996. It was directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson. And listen, it completely changed the horror landscape, in my opinion. At the time, slashers were starting to feel tired and repetitive, and Scream shows up knowing exactly what kind of movie it is. And it trusted the audience to be in on the joke. It's a horror movie about horror movies that somehow manages to still be genuinely scary, which is not an easy thing to pull off. The setup? Simple. A masked killer targeting high school students, while the characters themselves openly talk about the rules of surviving a horror movie. But instead of killing the tension, that self-awareness actually adds to it. Because now you know the rules. But so does the killer. What I've always loved about Scream is how sharp it is. The dialogue is fast, the pacing is tight, and it never talks down to you. It assumes you're paying attention, and it rewards you if you are. Sidney Prescott is such a strong final girl because she feels real. She's not invincible. She's dealing with trauma and grief and fear, and Neve Campbell brings such a groundedness that keeps the movie from tipping into the parody realm. The supporting cast is stacked. You've got Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, which is iconic for a reason. David Arquette's Dewey is awkward. He's earnest, and he is weirdly endearing. Everyone feels like they just kind of belong in this world. And now, as I said we would talk about it, let's talk about Stu Macher. Because listen, Stu is chaotic. Stu is loud. Stu has zero emotional regulation. And Matthew Lillard has committed to that energy at about 1,000% for this role. Stu could have been annoying in a different movie. He could have been too much, but Scream understands the tone, and it lets him be funny without ever fully letting you feel safe laughing at him. He's unpredictable, messy, emotional, and honestly, that makes him unsettling in a very specific kind of way. He doesn't feel calculated. He feels volatile. And the lack of control is what makes him scary. Do I recognize that loving Stu is a red flag? Yes. Am I willing to unpack that today? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I should say, because it feels important, I also really love Billy. Billy Loomis, though, is a completely different kind of scary. And that contrast is such a huge reason why this movie works. Where Stu is chaotic and loud and unpredictable, Billy is controlled. He's quiet. He's intense. He feels off in a way that you just can't quite put your finger on. And Skeet Ulrich plays that perfectly. Billy is the kind of character who makes you uneasy, even if he's not doing anything overtly threatening. There's always this sense that just something is simmering right underneath the surface. But you also love him. And I think that's what makes pairing Billy with Stu so effective. You've got one killer who's explosive and emotional, and one who's cold and calculated. One who spirals, one who plans. Together, they cover every kind of fear, chaos, and control. And that balance is part of what makes Scream feel so tense, even when you think you know what's coming. So yes, Stu has my heart in a probably deeply concerning way, but Billy is essential, and I will not be taking further questions on that at this time. What I will say is one of the reasons that Scream still works nearly 30 years later is that it never really feels dated in the ways that you'd expect. I mean, listen, yes, the fashion is aggressively 1996. The phones, they're landlines. But the idea behind what they're trying to do holds up. This is a movie that understands how obsessed people are with horror, how audiences think they are smarter than the movie that they're watching, and how the rules get repeated until they become comfort. And then it uses it all against you. You feel very clever watching Scream. You feel like you know what's coming. And exactly when it pulls the rug out from under you, you're shocked. It also balances humor and tension incredibly well. You laugh and then immediately feel uncomfortable for laughing. That push and pull is a very hard thing to do, and Scream kind of makes it feel effortless. For me, Scream is what you'd call a comfort horror movie, which, listen, I get that does sound strange. And if you're not a horror person, you're going to be kind of bothered. So let me explain. This isn't comfort in the sense of it's relaxing or it's gentle. It's comfort because it's familiar. I know the rhythm of it. I know the characters. I know when the tension rises and when it releases. And there's something really reassuring about watching a movie where you understand the rules of the world. Even when the bad things are happening, there's a structure, there's intention, and nothing feels random or out of place. Scream also balances fear with humor in a way that never really overwhelms me. I can be tense, but I'm never, exhausted. I can laugh, but the danger does still feel real. And I think that is why it's such an easy rewatch. It's smart, self-aware, and controlled. I don't have to brace myself emotionally. I just get to it and enjoy it. It's the kind of horror movie I can put on anytime, whether I'm fully paying attention or half watching. It still works. That is the mark of something special. It's familiar without being boring, smart without being exhausting, and fun without losing its edge. But it's also kind of a movie that reminds you why you fell in love with horror in the first place. Because it respects the genre and the audience at the same time. So yeah, Scream is a classic for a reason. Sharp, funny, genuinely scary, and endlessly rewatchable. And it's the perfect way to kick off a full week dedicated to this franchise. Not just because it is the first installment. So ladies and gentlemen, that is today's movie review of the day here on Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. And this is just the beginning of Scream Week. So stick around for more. And yes, I'll be back later in the week to talk about one other installment in this franchise. But until next time, be kind to yourself and your comfort movies, no matter what genre they may be.